Hi there. Hope you're having a lovely day so far. Well, COVID-19 has meant the celebration of so many important life events have really had to be postponed. Celebrations from weddings to babies' arrivals, birthdays, everybody's lives in one way or another has definitely been impacted. But with the increased time at home in social isolation, this time has no doubt brought about a new sense of appreciation for all of our stay-at-home parents and mums included, and everything that they fit into their day. And it's now been seen and understood how complex and challenging it actually is to divide energy and time amongst family members, housework, work, extended family, friends, and just life in general. So for all of the stay-at-home parents who happen to be mums, this Mother's Day should be a day to be celebrated and definitely not one of those events at the moment to be postponed. Self-care is critical for all mothers and not just a one-off on Mother's Day, but there are also a long list of other needs that are just as important. To help us understand these and to talk to us all about them is our special guest today, Jessie Buttons. Now, Jessie is also known as the New Zealand super nanny and is a #1 best-selling author, a behaviour consultant, international speaker, and a parent coach. And Jessie has an amazing ability to be able to inspire and coach parents, helping them to come to a new level of understanding. Thank you so much for your time today, Jessie. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, Rachel. Nice to be here.
Oh, well, we're really, really grateful for your time. Now, I understand that you have trained and worked as a preschool teacher, and then traveled the world for many years working as a nanny for many high profile families. I'd love to know at the get, what are some of the commonalities that you have found between all the different types of families that you've worked with around the world?
Yeah, so one of the main things I did notice was that the parents weren't around a lot. Obviously, that's what happens when you have a nanny. The nanny is often in the home. A lot of these parents had a lot of other household staff as well, taking care of home life. So what this meant for the children was that they didn't see mum and dad as much.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the behaviour I saw was, attention-seeking behaviour, wanting mum and dad's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And, I also noticed the parents buying their children things, having that kind of, I feel guilty I'm not around, but I'll buy you this instead. And a lot of the behaviour I noticed was just the children acting out a message. They didn't have the ability to say how they felt, to share their feelings, so they would act it out, just like a game of charades. So I learned pretty quickly to read those messages and to realise what it is that they were needing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like during your time, we understand that you've witnessed a diverse range of parenting practices and behaviour challenges, and that you're also the author of a book for parents. Can you tell us a little bit about the book and what's the name of it?
Yes, the book, it's called The Nature of Children, and it's a book about the 4 different temperaments in children. I call them natures. So I noticed amongst the families, and when I was a preschool teacher, I noticed that different children had definitely had different temperaments. I was managing a Montessori preschool at the time, and I learned about personality types when I was managing children. I went from managing teachers. I went from looking after children to looking after teachers and parents. Now that's a very different skill set.
Yes.
And so learning about the different personality types, I figured out what I was, and I wondered, are we born with these natures, or do they develop over time as we develop personality traits? And after doing some research, I realized we're actually born into these kind of temperaments.
Wow.
And I noticed we're definitely leading with one across the 4. So I'll mention the 4. They are social and strong. These are the extroverted natures. And then sensitive and structured, more of the low movement, quieter natures. So each natured child has different tendencies and preferences. So once you observe them, you will notice, gosh, that child is so different from that one. This one just has to get his hands on things. He has to be moving forward. He's just, always has to be doing this. And this child is completely different. They don't seem to mind. And so I wrote a book about different parenting strategies based on those different natures.
Interesting. And we've published your article titled Mother, the Keeper of the Home, which actually speaks about each of these four different sort of personality types. Now, for someone who hasn't read the article, can you give us a little bit of an overview about it and just tell us what inspired you to write it?
Well, I was inspired to write it after basically our country here in New Zealand went into isolation. We all went into lockdown, and a lot of the families that I support as the super nanny, we meet online and I coach parents. So it was more about not the children's behaviour, but the parents getting their own needs met so that they could tolerate what was going on. So I thought about the needs of mums in particular coming into Mother's Day, as you mentioned, but this can also relate to dads as well at home. And I thought about how they would get their needs met on top of meeting everyone else's needs. So I wrote an article especially for mums for Mother's Day.
Yeah, and in the article you speak about the four different types, but you speak about this about the personality types for mums. In the book, it's about the children having been one of the four, or sort of fitting into one of the four. But the article speaks about it, about how a mother would actually, fit into one of the four also.
Yeah, sure. So the four different
types, yeah,
four different natures of mums. Yeah, so they're the same. So we've got the social natured mum. Now this mum is the bubbly, bouncy, buoyant mum. The strong natured mum, this is the action, got to get things done, always moving forward, I need to tick off my list. Those are the two high movement extroverted natures. Then the two low movement natures are the sensitive mum. These are the ones that make sure everybody's comfortable. They're the peacemakers in the home, the nurturers. And then the structured mum, these are the more introverted, the perfectionists. These are the mums that need everything on a spreadsheet. And so I've written the article about what are the needs that each of these four natures of mums need to have met while they're in lockdown, basically.
So the social natured mum needs high movement and social interaction. Is that the right way to break that down? Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Anything else that if a mum's listening in and she's trying to identify which one of the four that she is, so a social mum is high movement and social interaction. So is there anything else that she would need in particular to be able to help meet her own personal needs?
I would say that social interaction and high movement would be in the top of the priorities. If there was only a couple of needs that she could meet, it would be those ones I listed, but there are some others. These others are fun, variety, a little bit of randomness. You can kind of see a theme here. Moving on to the strong natured, I've mentioned they like to have results. They like to tick something off their list.
Yeah.
Forward physical movement is also important for the strong natured mum. She needs to be moving forward. She likes to lead and she loves a challenge. So just like children, just like a strong natured child, if they're not challenged as one of their highest needs, not challenged at school, they will come home and challenge their siblings, their parents. Just got to get that need met. So if a strong natured mum isn't feeling challenged, she's not moving forward, she's not getting that results, that action, she's just going to feel really irritable.
And then you've got the sensitive.
So moving on to the sensitive.
Yeah.
Comfort and meaningful interactions. So the sensitive natured parent needs to have the slow, graceful downtime. They like to be comforted. They like to also have information about what's happening. They can get quite anxious if they don't have the facts about what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's important for a sensitive mum to just take the time to have that comfort, give herself that time, read that book, have that bath, take time to have meaningful interactions with friends and that sort of thing. These mums are the ones that will put everyone else's needs first and forget about their own. But this is dangerous. This can lead to resentment, the type of what about me? Nobody sees me. Obviously subconsciously, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on to the structured mum.
Yes.
The structured mum needs time alone. And I've added there in a tidy home because I did some research asking the parents I work with, you know, what if they had no kids at home, what would they be doing? And the structured mums all said, I'd be just cleaning the home and getting order. So then I said, well, what would you be doing if you were home alone, no kids, everything's taken care, and the house was tidy? And then they started saying things like, oh, I would read, or I would research, and that these are the ones that love facts and figures, or I'd be making a spreadsheet, or I'd be doing my online shopping order. You know, they like to just make sure everything's organized.
Mm-hmm.
So in the article I wrote that it's important for them to have time alone.
Yeah. So for people listening, you're either one of, or you fit into one of these four, so either the social natured mum, the strong natured mum, the sensitive natured mum, or the structured mum. So I'm understanding now, and with everyone sort of fitting into one of those four, why is it so important for mothers to have their own needs met? And I would say, and as an extension of this question also for, you know, the family members around to be able to understand this also.
Yeah, so when we don't get the needs of our own nature met, as I said before, we can get quite irritable. And when we're irritable, we have less tolerance for other people. So if you think about a cup and a saucer, and what I tell mums is they have to fill that cup up until it's overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can give whatever is overflowing into the saucer, that's what they can give.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get yourself into that position where you're so full and you're feeling good, you've had your sleep, you've had your own time, you've got your own needs met, you're so much better prepared. You're in a position then to actually respond to your family, to the children. You're able to respond with the thinking part of your brain and not the emotional part of your brain. Everything else just runs so much smoother when you look after yourself first.
Yeah.
And parents, mums and dads included, they are the leaders in the family. So all these little people are looking up to them. So if they look up to them and they see that mum's actually, she's getting her needs met, she's taking time out, she's having a bath, there's a sign on the door. Or one thing that I do with my families is they have a mum's night off, where the children actually serve mum and the dad cooks dinner, or vice versa. And it's just great role modelling to teach kids that self-care is important.
You know, it is the saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. And it sort of fits into our mission statement very much so here at Kiddipedia. And the first part is that the parent has to be sort of within themselves, sort of complete for them to be able to give. It actually fits into this analogy perfectly. But in this situation at the moment with parents having a household full of children in self-isolation and balancing all of the difficult things that they are at the moment with homeschooling, the whole gamut that we know that we've all spoken about, and is in the media all the time at the moment, with running a household, with job pressures and all of the economic pressures with it as well. It can be naturally a little bit more difficult at the moment to be able to create that space in their life, to be able to, you know, have that moment where they can sort of ensure that their cup is a little bit overflowing. So do you have any tips or any advice in the current environment, how parents can actually ensure that they are sort of keeping themselves topped up, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. My first tip would be to follow a visual daily schedule, a routine. Mm-hmm. And in this routine, it's not so important to have the times that everything's happening, but more the sequence, so that children can get that feeling of security and they know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So the whole family knows what's happening. And that way, everybody's doing their schoolwork at the same time. Everybody is outside playing at the same time. Everybody is eating at the same time. And then there's less overall noise and chaos. Also on the schedule, and I do have a PDF available for any of your listeners that would like a copy.
Great.
We have a column down the side that says, is mum or dad available? So at any given time of the day, children can go to it, and if they need someone, they can say, oh, it's dad. Dad's available.
Mm-hmm.
And if mum and dad are both unavailable, then there's two crosses there, and they know, okay, for the next half an hour, mum's on a call and dad's at work or whatever it is. They're actually unavailable, but I know at 3 o'clock it's afternoon tea time and it says mum, and I can talk to mum then.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to structure your day so that you can get that you can get the things done that you need to do. You can get that self-care in. Also on the schedule is family quiet time. And this happens after lunch, and everybody has some quiet time. Some time alone, some time to relax, some time to sleep. Generally after lunch is when most toddlers or babies will go to sleep anyway. And it's really important that everybody has their own little space. So if kids are sharing rooms, then I encourage parents to create another little area where they can have this quiet time. And for children who won't stay in their rooms or won't have quiet time, you can have a special quiet time box. And this is filled with stickers and books and special things that only come out at quiet time. And it's things that children can do unassisted and safe. Obviously, you wouldn't put scissors in there or anything like that. Something safe that they can do by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Another tip is to make lunch boxes, just as you would for school. I have a lot of families reporting that kids are always hungry when they're home and they're always hanging around the kitchen. But if you make lunch boxes, that's their food for the day. And then after afternoon tea, kitchen's closed until dinner. And just again to structure things and let the kids know what's what.
Mm.
There's a couple of tips there.
And I mean, any particular tips for, I guess, the high-spirited children that have, lots of energy, that even during that time when you are trying to create that quiet time after lunch, any other additional tips for parents that have high energy children day after day?
Yeah, I would say get them outside and get that energy out before lunch, before quiet time. If you can get outside, absolutely get outside, run around, do what you can do with what you've got. I guess we're quite limited at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Inside exercises, have a family exercise session. Dancing is another great activity. Some families have even installed indoor climbing equipment on the back of doors for their strong-natured toddlers, because they love to have that physical challenge to pull themselves up or to climb up the ladder. And gym mats to roll and jump on is another great idea. You can throw all the pillows down in the lounge and have a leapfrog game or whatever, anything that kind of gets that energy out. Social kids love a bit of rough and tumble, so I encourage parents to get in there and move with their children instead of just kind of telling them to move. If you do it with them, it's so much more fun and you'll get more exuberance out of them. You'll be able to wear them out a lot quicker if you're doing it as well.
And as an extension of this, also speaking about ensuring that mums have their own needs met for the moment, could you maybe give us a couple tips per personality type that could be helpful for a mum to identify, now that she's identified which one she sort of fits into, but just some introductions to the tips as to how that can sort of help each one of them?
Sure. So the social nature, a great thing for them is a place to calm their mind, but take a notepad for ideas. So one of the many talents of the social nature is ideas. So it's hard for the social natured mum to relax because her mind is constantly going, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and we've got homeschool and da, 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 da. So find a quiet spot, but take a notepad and just write all those ideas down, get them out of your head, and that will help you just to feel a lot less stressed.
Mm-hmm.
The strong-natured, these parents are usually the ones who are in charge. They usually take the lead. So having a break from being in charge is really helpful, and this gives them a chance to tick some boxes for themselves. Maybe they had some gardening that they wanted to get done. Maybe they wanted to preserve some fruit. There's something there that they've been dying to do, but because they've been leading the whole family and taking charge of homeschooling and all that sort of stuff, they haven't been able to get those sorts of things done.
Mm-hmm.
The sensitive nature, reading a book in the bath or creating a cozy environment that puts their mind at ease. This nature is all about the calming, caring, nurturing. So anything that they love to do that makes them feel nurtured. They also feel good when they nurture others. So just making sure that they do have the opportunity to nurture others. And the structured nature, this nature needs a break from social responsibilities. So this is the introverted nature that would probably quite prefer to stay home and is probably loving isolation at the moment. But there has been an influx on online and Zoom and keeping in touch with everyone socially. So just giving, this mother just needs to give herself permission to just have a break from that. Have a break from the socialness and just play a game. I've got a friend who loves playing chess online, playing Scrabble online, or just playing solitaire, something that they can just use their brain, something they can improve on without that need for socializing.
You know, following what we were saying at the start of the chat, is that this particular Mother's Day is a day that is definitely to be celebrated. And as we were saying before, it's not a day to postpone or to miss. Now, the things that you just speaking about just now equally can be given as gifts. I mean, sometimes the most important things in life aren't things; they're actually just their moments and their experiences. So maybe it's this is a thought for any sort of partner or father that is listening equally as well, that to be able to think laterally and think outside the box for this particular Mother's Day. How can you give something? And once you identify which one of the four that your the mum sort of sits into, but how can you give a gift of time or a gift of an experience at home where we can't necessarily get out to the shops as readily as we want to at the moment, and or in a lot of circumstances too with sort of financial stress. It might just be that we don't necessarily have the funds to go out and be spending money on sort of expensive gifts. However, an experience and the thoughtfulness of actually understanding your mum and what the needs are sometimes, and I would think a lot of the time, would mean so much more than just a material gift. So this is really great insight for us to be able to think about these experiences that we can give absolutely specific to the individual, to the mum. Now, as I was just mentioning about the financial stresses and all the other stresses that we have on our plate at the moment, with life in isolation and everything this COVID-19 era is bringing us, Jessie, I'd love to know, do you have some tips for general stress reduction within the household at the moment?
Yeah, look, general stress reduction, I would be focusing on for parents on how they are responding and reacting to what's going on. Because as I mentioned before, they are the leaders of the family, and the children are going to be looking up to them in order to how they should feel and how they should respond.
Yeah. So
their emotional well-being and their mental health side of things really needs to be nurtured. So I would say general stress reduction would just be taking care of yourself first.
And any tips, I guess, for even a single mum at this time as well, understanding a lot of scenarios that there are a lot of parents with not even just one child, that could have two, three children, but there, as a single parent with all the other life pressures as well, this situation might be a little bit harder. So any other tips, I guess, for general stress for a single mum?
Yeah, I would just reduce the expectations of the mum for herself at this time, and also reduce the expectations you have for the children at this time. Getting all the schoolwork done, getting all the housework done, that sort of stuff doesn't really matter. But having fun with the kids at home is really what matters, and being together in this time. So I would just try and let all the stresses of the world and what needs to be done and what I'm responsible for, I would just let that fall away and just enjoy the time at home with the children. also another tip could be to really think about what your children are capable of doing that you're doing for them. So a lot of parents, and I noticed this as a nanny, how much I was doing for the children, because I was the nanny and I thought, well, I better do that. I better make sure I look like I'm working. And as a matter of fact, the children expected me to. But, you know, if you've got a 3-year-old, they can open their own curtains. So maybe this is a time to really step back and go, you know what, guys, I'm going to really support you now. We've got nowhere to go. We've got nowhere to rush in the mornings. So I'm going to teach you how to make your bed. And I'm going to teach you how to open your curtains in the morning. And guess what? You're going to pour your own cereal today, your own milk, and I'm going to put it in a little pitcher for you, and it's going to be here. Kind of taking the time to let children do things for themselves and contribute in the home. I just think that's a wonderful opportunity for these sorts of things to start to happen.
Yeah. And just getting back to, I just had a thought about the single mums as well. Maybe it's about identifying them, actually understanding a little bit more about themselves. And it's all that the whole saying, know thyself, that if they don't have a significant other to be able to give them these things for Mother's Day, it's about creating the space and actually just creating them for themselves and understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and sort of saying, okay, great, well, I'm this particular type of mother, and then identifying actually these things would help significantly and actually help, as you were saying earlier on in the chat, to be able to have their needs met as well. So sometimes it's just a little bit of understanding. And I think when life gets so busy, the last thing that we're actually doing is actually working on ourselves and understanding more about ourselves. So maybe this is just an opportunity for all mums, not just single mums, but to understand more about themselves. And if someone's not going to do that, maybe just openly have that conversation, sort of say, well, if anyone asks, what do I want for Mother's Day? You know what? I really, really would love to be able to have some time to blah, blah, blah. So I think this conversation really is quite thought-provoking, and I'm thinking this COVID-19 era really is giving a lot of us the opportunity to be able to reassess our values and just to be able to do a lot more thinking. So this is really, really timely today, which is really great to understand a little bit more about ourselves. But I'd love to know also from your perspective, what is a solution for mums to ensure that they are dividing their time and attention equally between all members of the family?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially in this time when we're all home together. So quite a lot of sibling rivalry comes up from tension between kids for at mum's attention or dad's attention. So again, using the family schedule, the daily visual schedule, and putting on that schedule some together time. This is special time that's one-on-one with each child. And it might be 3 o'clock each day. You've got together time with Johnny on a Monday, Tuesday at Susie, and so on and so forth. So each child knows that is my day, that is my time with mum or with dad. And if it's mum and dad, then they can have their own slots. Then the children know that that's my time for me to bring mum or dad into my world and show them me. So together time is 10 to 15 minutes of one-on-one time. There's no phones, there's no distractions, and you do what the child wants to do. If they want to go jump on the trampoline, you go jump on the trampoline. If they want to build Lego, then you get down on the floor and you build Lego, and it's child directed. And this really fills up their tank of feeling significant, feeling important, feeling wanted. And then when they see mum spending time with another child, they don't get so upset because they know, well, that's his time. It's always his time. It's on the calendar. And I know when my time is, that sort of thing. The other thing you can do is if you do have help, if you do have a nanny or you do have a mother-in-law or someone coming in to help you, instead of them taking the children away, get them to do some of the other stuff so you can have that special time with the children, because at the end of the day, that is what they want. They want to be seen. And once you understand the nature of your child, you can really see who they are. It's like doubles in their good feeling. Mum knows who I am. She knows that I'm a structured and I like to have things just so, and she knows that I like facts and figures, and she really sees who I am.
Just creating that really structure and the certainty for the children. In your experience, when you've actually done this as a nanny, what benefits have you actually seen at the other end of it?
I've seen that children learn themselves about who they are. And this is really powerful when we look at self-esteem and being bullied at school. You know, you want your children to know who they are. If they're a sensitive nature, you want them to know that that's who they are, and there's so much value in that they're going to grow up and they're going to be a vet or a teacher or a pastor, and if they're not going to be this big tough rugby player, then that's okay. And if they get called a wimp or a wuss, then it doesn't really bother them as much because they know who they are. They can walk into the classroom and think, I've arrived because I know who I am because my mum told me. And so I was just thinking of 5 words that you can use to boost your child's self-esteem. And those 5 words are, I love that about you. So if the listeners want to learn more about that, they can Google I love that about you. It's a post I wrote about self-esteem. And it's basically, once you know the nature of your child, you can see what qualities that nature has, and you can point at it and you can say, I love that about you.
That's so
So
beautiful.
if you've got a strong-natured, strong-willed child that is quite pushy, you can flip it to say, gosh, you're so passionate. You just love to get your hands on things and get things done. I love that about you. So they can start to see who they are as really valuable.
Yes, and be comfortable in their own skin too, and understand,
Absolutely.
that they are perfect the way that they are, and their own authentic self. In saying this, like, where can parents go to find out more information about meeting the highest needs of their children in general?
So my book is available on my website, the New Zealand Supernanny.co.nz. Also, if they look for the New Zealand Super Nanny on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, if they search Jessie Buttons, it should pop up. So there's more information available there. There's also some resources there, downloads, family tick charts and schedules and that sort of thing that I use with my families that I coach.
Jessie, we've been so grateful for your time. If you were to recap, I guess, all of the top points for anyone listening, how would you sort of summarise all of the key things that we've spoken about today?
I'd just say, Rachel, that everyone leads with a nature, one of the 4 natures, and each of those natures have some needs that are really important to recognise and notice. And for children, meeting those needs will result in more cooperation. And for parents, meeting those needs would result in having the I guess, energy and the optimism to deal with what's going on at the moment.
Yes. So this chat sort of has covered both mums and children alike. We really hope for the opportunity to chat with you again in the not too distant future. But for now, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks, Jessie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.